Hello to my channel Chinese Star. Today we will bring you the following hot and exciting news.
Nanfang Daily criticized Tsui Hark's version of The Legend of the Condor Heroes, and Jin Yong's words at that time finally made people believe The Legend of the Condor Heroes was released for 6 days and the box office was 500 million. The lineup was luxurious but the plot was chaotic. Tsui Hark's adaptation was criticized by Jin Yong. The actors were improperly selected, the costumes and props were complained. The movie failed to highlight the theme of the greatest hero, and the fighting was not related to traditional martial arts. The film market is extremely cruel. Although the degree of care of a movie may be able to drive the box office up through the strong support of fans in the first few days, soon, the most cold and intuitive numbers will reveal the real situation. Excellent works will eventually be recognized by the market, and the results cannot be ignored. Just like The Legend of the Condor Heroes, it has a strong lineup, with top stars like Xiao Zhan cooperating with first-line director Tsui Hark, and the lineup can be described as luxurious. There is also a loud IP, and Jin Yong's martial arts world is well known in the Chinese circle, plus the real-life shooting location was chosen in the vast Inner Mongolia prairie, and the lens presents a magnificent scenery. Unfortunately, although the total budget before the release was as high as 300 million, the results began to show as soon as it was released. The box office of The Legend of the Condor Heroes exceeded 500 million inches just 6 days after its release. This was inseparable from the support of Tsui Hark's fans, Jin Yong's martial arts fans and Xiao Zhan's fans, which brought a strong impetus to the box office. The single-day box office on the first day was as high as 250 million, followed by 130 million, 80 million, 30 million, and now 20.71 million, which is a rapid decline. Tsui Hark dared to use The Legend of the Condor Heroes, The Greatest Hero as the full title of the movie. At first glance, people can't help but think that this must be a work full of patriotism and ambition. After all, in Jin Yong's martial arts world, the ultimate righteousness of a hero is to serve the country and the people. Talking about creative supervision again, the web drama Bleach can pass the review at such a bold scale, and CCTV also vigorously promotes it. For artistic creators, it is undoubtedly a spring of development. Seeing this title, coupled with the fact that the chapter that Tsui Hark chose to shoot is about Guo Jing's first defense of Zhang Yang and his cooperation with various martial arts figures to resist foreign invasions, it is hard not to think of Guo Jing's heroic image of maneuvering between the three kingdoms of Mongolia, Song and Jin, turning the tide and fighting with swords and spears. I thought it was a martial arts action film full of Hong Kong flavor, but it turned out to be a fantasy film of ancient idol love. Tsui Hark adapted The Legend of the Condor Heroes into a war-torn background, presenting an emotional atmosphere of a middle-aged man and woman experiencing 9 tragedies and 10 relationships. The background changed to the invasion of Mongolia by the Jin soldiers, and the Khan on the grassland stood up to resist and planned to pass through the Song dynasty. At this time, Guo Jing objected. The plot was extremely chaotic and bad. When Hua Zheng and Wang Rong were fighting, Wang Yaoshi did not appear at all. In the end, Guo Jing challenged Du Yangfeng alone and successfully scared off 1 million Mongolian troops with his eloquence. His duel with Du Yangfeng was actually a magic duel that took place 3 meters away. It felt like the two of them were fully capable of single-handedly fighting against Yuan Chu Xianzan and Tongshan Jiaozu and Fengshan too. Tsui Hark seemed to be somewhat influenced by Master Zhang, and paid too much attention to the shocking effects of the pictures and scenes. Although the real scenes and pictures are very expressive, they seem to be negligent in the deeper theme construction, story logic and psychological needs of the audience, and the whole work is impetuous and not settled enough. The choice of the 2 leading actors is not very suitable. First of all, Wang Rong played by Zhang Dafei. It is more appropriate to say that she is a female instructor. She is simply the kind of person who would rather die than surrender under the harsh torture of the enemy. Look at her firm eyes, and then look at her with a pair of braids. Her hair is not decorated, and there is no bun design. At first glance, she looks bright red and full of revolutionary atmosphere. There is no quirky look, nor does she look smart, and charming. Instead, she has a very resolute face, which is really outstanding. If this Wang Rong took out a box gun and shot Du Yangfeng, it would not feel out of place at all. Actor Zhang Dafei's temperament is very suitable for playing in anti-Japanese war dramas or period dramas. The Wang Rong he plays gives people the feeling of being as honest and simple as Guo Jing. It is indeed lacking some agility. The overall appearance is too simple and down to earth. The costumes and makeup are really hard to complain about. Did the heroine snatch the hair rope from Yang Beilio? There is no bun design at all. Which reminds me of the pretty Wang Rong. Xiao Zun's Guo Jing has a decent temperament. He has both inner toughness and outer dullness, but unfortunately, his line skills are not as good as those of the male protagonists in those short dramas. He can hardly hide his joy, anger, sorrow and joy, and his brows are often furrowed, but it can be seen that he is trying his best to perform. The performance of key actors is no longer the main problem. The real difficulty lies in the overly abstract plot. This movie does not really highlight the theme of the greatest hero at all. Guo's mother committed suicide, Guo Jin broke with Mongolia, and the Battle of Zhangyang. These events that should have been the core of the plot were either hastily passed over or not developed at all, and in the end there was only a story about her chasing him and looking for him. Tsui Hark filled the film with many empty plots, feeding the audience a mouthful of industrial saccharine, and the spirit of night was actually supported entirely by empty words. After watching it, I thought the hero was Zhu Yangfeng. Wang Rong threatened the general defending the city with a knife and tied him up, asking the city defense army not to launch an attack. Then, Guo Jing walked out of the Mongolian army. He and Wang Rong held hands and stood between the Mongolian and Song armies, looking like they were playing. It is hard to believe that this swordsman was directed by Tsui Hark, just as it is hard for me to believe that Dream of Red Mansions was directed by Li Xiaohong, and The Golden Jade Marriage in Dream of Red Mansions was directed by Hu Mei, who filmed Yong's Han Dynasty. What happened to these directors? It turned out that Nanfang Daily also began to forward media articles and publish comments, criticizing the failure of the swordsman to solve the problem as being too empty and stiff. The article made in-depth comments on technology, scripts, screenwriters, narrative techniques, popular actors, and the lack of martial arts elements one by one, and the writing style was sharp and interesting. Jin Yong once bluntly criticized Tsui Hark for not understanding martial arts, pointing out, "I don't like him because he knows nothing about martial arts," and made Swordsman of Shu Mountain incomprehensible. Moreover, he made many inappropriate changes to my novel Swordsman, changing Dongfang Bubei from a male to a female, and found a female actor to play the role. When a man becomes a woman, his personality will inevitably change. This process is slow and complicated, full of changes and difficulties, and is by no means as simple and direct as in the movie. Later, he wanted to buy my novel to adapt it into a movie. I told him that we can still do things between friends, but I will not sell my novel to you anymore, and the cooperation cannot continue. At that time, Jin Yong authorized Swordsman to be adapted by Tsui Hark, and Tsui Hark almost completely changed the plot of the original work. In response, Jin Yong was very angry and thought that Tsui Hark failed to understand his work, so he decided not to let Tsui Hark adapt his novel. Although Jin Yong changed his opinion of Tsui Hark after watching Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy, and therefore granted him the adaptation rights of The Return of the Condor Heroes. If the old man were still alive and saw Tsui Hark's adaptation this time, I am afraid there would be no chance of cooperation again, because the ideological core of this drama has been completely lost as a director. Tsui Hark has a unique style and visual impact and action scenes. He is good at creating a fantastic and magnificent martial arts world, especially in special effects and fast-paced narratives. However, Jin Yong's martial arts works are not just about swords and grudges, but also a heavy sense of history and patriotism, full of profound discussions on human nature and patriotism. As one of Jin Yong's most representative works, The Legend of the Condor Heroes is Guo Jing's simple and tenacious chivalrous spirit for the country and the people. This spirit needs to be shown through delicate character portrayal and layered plot advancement, rather than just through shocking visual effects and compact rhythm. It is indeed difficult for a 2-hour movie to carry such a complex theme. Important elements such as character growth lines, patriotism, and ethnic conflicts all require sufficient foreshadowing to resonate with the audience. Once compressed too much, the plot is likely to appear hasty, and the character creation will lose its thickness, resulting in the audience being unable to truly feel the essence of Jin Yong's works. Perhaps in the future, if more space can be given to show the growth of characters and the accumulation of emotions in the form of dramas, it may be possible to better interpret the deep connotation of Jin Yong's works. Of course, Xiao Zhan still showed good acting skills and strong appeal in such works, which is also a highlight worthy of recognition. Indeed, the audience's vision is becoming more and more picky, especially for the adaptation of classic martial arts IPs. What everyone expects is not only the visual impact, but also the resonance on the spiritual level. The charm of traditional martial arts lies in the texture of real fight and real shooting, emphasizing the tension between fists and flesh, moves, and the emotional power behind the characters. This sense of reality is presented through rigorous martial arts design and the actors' attentive performances. However, the extensive use of wire and special effects in the film, although intended to create a more dazzling visual effect, will only make people feel exaggerated and distorted if there is a lack of reasonable fighting logic and martial arts aesthetics. Special effects should serve the plot and characters, not take over the main role. Once the audience sees obvious wire traces or less refined special effects, it is easy to get out of the play, weakening the sense of substitution of the story itself. More importantly, martial arts is not just about fighting scenes, but also a kind of cultural sentiment. Good martial arts work should allow the audience to feel the chivalrous spirit, family and country feelings of the characters, and the grievances and entanglements in the rivers and lakes. If you just pursue visual effects and ignore the core, then no matter how gorgeous the scenes are, it will be difficult to impress people. Despite this, Xiao Zhan's performance in the film is still remarkable. His grasp of the characters' emotions and delicate interpretation add a lot to the whole film. The audience is willing to pay for excellent films, and the key is whether the work itself can really touch people's hearts. I hope that future martial arts works can find a balance between vision and spirit while inheriting classics.
Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to our support channel.